Hello everyone, I honestly didn't think I'd be back, but here I am. Now recently I've started to get back into playing the Sonic franchise, and honestly it's been a huge source of nostalgia. I wanted to come back to YouTube and go through, in depth, all of the main series games. So that's Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic 06, Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, Sonic Lost World, Sonic Boom, Sonic Forces, and finally Sonic Mania, with possibly the spin-off titles in later videos. So without further ado, let's commence this first video on Sonic 1. Now a little bit of backstory before we kick this video off. Sonic started off as a sort of mascot for Sega, as they had an ongoing feud and rivalry during the 90s with the Nintendo franchise, more specifically Super Mario Bros. While the Mario games were built around younger and more casual audiences, Sega instead decided that they wanted a cooler, more rad, and quicker character that utilized a lot more speed, to attract a lot of kids and adults alike, because this sort of thing was fashionable. Dr. Robotnik, a brilliant scientist, dreams of world domination and intends to accomplish this by using the 6 Chaos Emeralds, currently held on South Island, and which give legendary power. Dr. Robotnik builds a base on the island and begins turning innocent animals into robot slaves in order to achieve his goals. Sonic, a super fast blue hedgehog, hears of these developments and goes to save his friends. Although South Island is now infested with Dr. Robotnik's mechanical devices, Sonic has one advantage. Dr. Robotnik doesn't realize that the Chaos Emeralds are not on the island itself, but in a secret zone caused by its movement. Sonic sets out to acquire the gems before Dr. Robotnik and confront him in order to restore peace to South Island. Immediately, when you insert the game in, after pressing the start button, you're instantly whisked into the first stage, Green Hill Zone Act 1. This lays down the foundation of what's to come throughout the rest of the game, and thus has caused it to become a stalwart of future Sonic games, appearing in most games since. The levels are populated with hazards in the form of robots, inside which Dr. Robotnik has trapped animals. Destroying a robot frees the creature, but is not necessary to complete the game. The player must also avoid touching spikes, falling into bottomless pits, and being crushed by moving walls or platforms, as well as drowning, which may be prevented by breathing air bubbles from vents. Sonic's main means of attack is the spin attack, in which he curls into a ball and rotates, damaging enemies and certain obstacles upon collision. This may be performed by jumping or by rolling on the ground. At the start of the game, the player is given 3 lives, each of which may be lost if Sonic collides with hazardous enemies or objects while in possession of no rings, falls to the bottom of the level screen, or exceeds an act's 10-minute time limit. Signposts that act as checkpoints allow Sonic to return to the most recently activated post when he loses a life. If Sonic loses a life as a result of time running out but has another, the time will reset when he returns to the checkpoint. The game ends when the player runs out of lives, although the player may return to the beginning of the act with 3 lives if the player has any continues. Scattered around each level are gold rings. Collecting 100 rings rewards the player with an extra life. Rings act as a layer of protection against hazards. If Sonic holds at least 1 ring when he collides with an enemy or dangerous obstacle, he will survive. However, all rings in his possession will be scattered. They flicker and disappear in a few seconds if not picked up again. If he is hit without holding any rings, he loses a life. Shields and temporary invincibility can be collected to provide additional layers of protection, but certain hazards, such as drowning, being crushed, falling down a bottomless pit, or running out of time, will cause Sonic to lose a life regardless of rings or other protection. The game is split into 6 principal zones, followed by a short finals zone. Each main zone has its own visual style, and while some enemies appear throughout, each zone has unique enemies and obstacles. Each main zone is split into 3 acts, all of which must be completed by the player. At the end of each main zone's 3rd act, the player confronts Dr. Robotnik for a boss fight. For most of the fights, Robotnik's vehicle is fitted with different weapons. After completing the 6th zone, the player continues directly to the single-level final zone for a last encounter with Robotnik inside a large machine environment. Destroying Robotnik's machine ends the game. A brief animation shows Sonic's return to the 1st zone, with animals liberated from Robotnik. When Sonic reaches the end of Act 1 or Act 2 of a zone while holding at least 50 rings, a large ring appears through which he can jump to enter a special stage. In the special stages, Sonic is continually curled up in his spin attack animation, and bounces off the bumpers and walls of a fully rotating maze. In these levels, the player earns a continue with each 50 rings collected, but the main goal is to obtain the Chaos Emerald hidden within the maze. Colliding with any of the blocks marked goal will instantly end the level.